what's the value of data? Is it the analytics and the way that they understand what they're doing? Is it the way they serve up, specific videos to their audience, or is it about maximizing search? So, kind of, what's sort of the big demand that, if you could sort of generalize in that way?
Well, ultimately, everybody wants to get their content in front of as many people as possible, and they want to get the hottest content in front of audiences as quickly as possible so they can maximize on it while it's hot. They also want to be able to take every viewer session that occurs and show them as much video as possible, because video is the highest value asset. And so the way that you can actually do that is through data. And there's kind of two modes of operation that I see people going on. One is where they are doing what I call manual data processing, where they're kind of looking at analytics after the fact and trying to look for trends and spot what's hot and what's interesting, and then making changes to their content or how the content is presented based on that. But the cycle time on that can be days or weeks or months, depending on how often they look at the data. The other thing that's interesting that's going on is that people want to increasingly create real-time feedback loops between analytics data and what's going on their sites, so that actual playlists can be dynamically generated from analytics data, so that related videos can be dynamically generated from analytics data, and so they can actually in real time get ahead of the curve when content starts to spike and be really interesting. And I think that's one of the frontiers that's really most interesting in big data right now in video.
So cool. So how does a publisher link into what's happening through your platform or through vendors? In real time, let's say.
Well, so the biggest thing that people do is they usually build integrations between a platform like ours and their content management system. And so their content management system is where if they're a news publisher, where their article data is sourced. And that's what's presenting on their website on a regular basis. Typically, it's within those article detail pages where video content is best to be employed. And so they want to have that embedding strategy be highly contextualized, so that when I have an article that's about a particular election or a particular story around the election, if I have video content around that and that video content is hot, that I get it associated dynamically and it automatically comes together. And they usually do that through integrations with our APIs. But usually that's just a matter of matching up metadata. I have an article about Barack Obama and this particular thing that he said, and I have an article about that, so bring them together and let's display them on the same page. But with the new analytics APIs and things that you can do, you can actually say, give me content that's about Barack Obama that's actually trending right now, and let's get that on the page. And that gives you a more dynamic real-time link between what you're getting, not just the metadata, but the actual momentum of the content. I think that's a really interesting frontier.
So you guys, have an association, your association with RAMP, and some of your customers use it. Tell us about the use of transcriptions as a way to either help with contextualization of stories or to maximize search.
Sure.
What's the value there?
Well, there's a few different areas where that comes in. I mean, first of all, as we were just talking about with articles and associating video content with articles in the classic news scenario, to the extent that you have deep metadata about what's in the video content, you can more accurately associate it with content. So you end up with fewer what we call naked pages. A naked page is a page that has a bunch of text but no video content within it. That's a page that is suboptimal from an effective CPM perspective, and everybody wants to get more video on more pages. And if you have that metadata, you could dynamically associate more video content on the pages and actually have better video views and generate more views in that way. So with integration with RAMP, we're able to get more videos that have deeper metadata that can then drive that dynamic association that happens in real time through the platform. And so that's what's really exciting about that technology.
And the other thing that's cool about video is that video is very highly ranked by Google. So what are some best uses in maximizing search rankings in Google around video?
Well, sure. I mean, if you're NBC News and you're competing against CBS News around the same story, if you've got an article that's effectively about the same thing, Google's going to have a hard time ranking one higher than the other based on the content itself, because it's got all the same keywords, the same names, the other things in there, and it's occurring in the same time frame. But if you actually have a video or an article that has a contextualized video embedded in that text, you're going to rank higher because video ranks video as a higher value content type. And so that's going to allow you to differentiate yourself and show up higher in the search rankings. And so that dynamic association can't be overstated. It's really important to get that right. And then when the video is embedded, to get it search engine optimized so that the Google and other search engines know what's going on and know that it's video and know what it's about. And having the metadata in the first place and then getting it properly integrated into your site is essential to that.
And finally, leaving the machines out of it for a minute, what about analytics and sort of the value of analytics to the video publishers? What are they looking for? What do they need? And what's the value that it brings to them?
Well, it's interesting, you know, there's a maturity curve that I think publishers go through as they look at analytics. It starts with really basic reporting. People just want to know, you know, on a monthly basis, how many views do we have? What's our engagement? How many uniques do we have? And things like that. Maybe some geographic reporting. But that's kind of Stone Age stuff. But a remarkable number of publishers get stuck there in the kind of infancy stage of maturity. Then they start to move up a little bit and say, well, let's put some resources on this, maybe an intern or somebody who's going to be looking for trends. And I see publishers who do that. They'll just take, hey, you know, maybe there's some data in there we should be looking at. And they really don't know what they're looking for, but they know there's data, and so they just throw somebody at it to go look at it. The next stage is what I would call adolescence, where they actually get somebody who is dedicated to analytics and is trying to look at it on a regular basis to find trends and look for things in an interesting way, and then driving action in the organization based on that. And I would say adulthood is where an organization has real data scientists who actually know a lot about data and know really big data concepts and how to crunch data and run statistical analyses and know what's statistically significant and what's not. And that's something that I think many organizations is in the future for them right now. But that's where we're headed, is a situation where you've really got expertise and you're using that to drive feedback loops into what you're doing with your content. And I think that's kind of the state of the art. I'd say fewer than 1% of publishers are there right now.